Red Filtertrons, that can only mean one thing, rat rod. Well, I've got a Gretsch Rat Rod up here on the bench, and I am going to do a setup on it, and I'm taking you with me. Let's go. Okay, now the first thing we need to do before we get started on this is, thank you, that means a lot to a tiny little YouTube channel like me. So let's get started. So this guitar was purchased through a gentleman I call Mr.X. This is the 5th one. They're all super clean. And this one's no exception. It's just super clean. This guy just takes good care of the guitars, but it's not set up. I mean, I've got all the guitars I've bought from him, I've set up because none of them were set up. And this one, the action was so high up here at the nut. I'm going to lightly dress these frets. I want them to be super smooth. That's just what I do. Throwing in these setups and then selling the guitar. You take the guitar to get this kind of a setup, you're going to spend a few bucks. What I'm going to do to this guitar, I would charge you 140 bucks. And I'm going to do it because, A, I want to show people how to do it. And B, when I sell guitars, I want them to be awesome. And I want the people to come back and buy guitars from me down the road. That's what I really would like, return customers. So let's get started. Okay, the boring job of masking the fretboard is done. There's 2 ways you can get a neck straight without a neck jig. One is by using a notched straight edge, but I can't really use that today because I've already taped. So that will throw me off a tiny amount. So I'm going to use my straight edge. And I've already finished this operation, and I use the truss rod to move the neck into the straightest possible position. So now the neck is ready to dress these frets. So here we go. But before we do dress and polish the frets, we got to go over it with the fret rocker. And here's the spots I found that were a little bit high. You've seen this before. Let's see. See how it's rocking there? And there's a few spots here. So I'm going to dress those down individually, just in the spots where I've marked. And then once they're all dressed and there's no high frets, then I will dress them all. This is like a tiny cleanup. That's all it is. I'm not going to take off much at all. Just a tiny amount. There's the smallest bit of, you could see the smallest bit of fret wear right on there on that first fret. So I'm just going to clean that up, and basically I'm just going to be polishing them. So here we go. All right, the first spot, I'm using 600. So I'm just gonna keep working it and keep testing it. It's still rocking. It's rocking a lot at the end there. It's going to take a little while using 600. Oh, I'm going to be here all day. 600, it's almost polishing the fret more than cutting it. But I don't want to put any sanding marks that won't come out. That's why I'm starting with 600. Okay, just a bit on the edge there. And a little bit more. Almost gone. Almost not rocking. I got a heater going because it's so cold. So you might not be able to hear the rocking action. Oh yeah, that's gone. So I've just got a few more to do and I'll take care of those. Okay, I have all the high frets taken care of with my fret rocker. Now I'm going to use 600. I've already marked the fretboard off with some marker. And I'm just going to dress these frets a bit. Real exciting, huh? Okay, here's how I'm doing it. Holding the sandpaper like that. And see if I can get a little more light over here. And I'm working the side and then I'm rolling it over the edges. And then I'll do the edge. I'm starting with 600, so this is pretty fine. I didn't want to take a lot off. I just wanted to polish the frets, really. And the few high frets, they're gonna keep the action from being as low as it can be. That's important. You got one high fret, it'll screw the whole guitar up. Okay. Okay, we've went up to 2500 and now I'm going to polish them. Got my mothers. But after the frets have been gone over with 2500, they're already shiny. They already look pretty good. So the polishing part is pretty stinking easy. The hardest part is remembering which one I last did. Which one did I last do? Blind man can't tell. Here we go. And there is the polished frets. Okay, so we have the frets dressed and polished really nicely. The fretboard is conditioned. Next is putting the strings on and doing the nut. But before that, I got something to do with the Bixby. This is the Bixby spring that was in it. And when I bought the guitar, the owner said I should put this one in it. Now, I marked this one with a little blue marker so I don't mix them up. They look exactly the same, and when you squeeze them, They seem exactly the same. I'm going to leave the original one in there. But I'm going to put this in to get the arm up a little bit. So that's what I'm going to use. But first I'm going to condition this guy. So this guitar came with 11 to 49 strings, and I've got some 11 to 48 clear tones here. 25 bucks. 11 to 48. So I'm going to put those on it. All right, I'm going to string up the guitar. You can see I have all the post holes going the same way. And you can see I've really taken some time to mask off the part of the neck that the strings are going to lay on as I'm cutting the nut. See, I've got it all protected. So we're going to start stringing her up. Here we go. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is put a little bend in here. And there's one other thing that I need to get. Capo. Okay. Put the kink in there, goes on a lot easier. You can see it's got a nice kink in it. Just hold it in place with the capo. All right, I'm gonna do a little string stretching. There's a lot of different ways people do this. Bring them all up to pitch. Or close to it. I won't go all the way up on the E because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the action. I'm going to get it to where the neck is got the relief I want. The action's right. Then I'll cut the nut. Man, I just can't believe how high they leave it. Wow. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to worry about taking the E up to pitch. So now, if I take a little gander here, I got some relief. So what I'm going to do is, I am going to tighten this loose truss rod up, totally loose. That's pretty stiff neck on this guitar, so that's always something that you want. Stiff neck. There's nothing worse when you get a guitar home, and of course I always set up guitars and usually dress the frets and do a whole bunch of work, and then you realize you loosen the truss rod and the whole neck goes. I hate that. So let's see what kind of relief we have. I want it to be almost straight, the tiniest bit of relief. And it kind of looks like it is. Yeah, there's almost no relief at all. Just a tiny bit. You can see it on the E string. So that's what I'm going to cut the nut to. But I'd like to lower the action and then tune it back up. Better go lower than that, right? Get her in the neighborhood, you know? The neighborhood. I'm going to put it on my lap and play it a little bit for a minute. So here's where I have the action. And it seems a little high because it is so obnoxious up here. So I'm going to put my capo up here. Give a little better idea of the action. I mean, now you can see it. See, it's pretty... I'm going to set it up like that. So now I'm going to cut the nut because the neck is really straight and the action is pretty much where it's probably going to end up. So here we go. Patience, my son. And you go too much, and then you ruin the job. That's the worst. Can't really do this with one hand. Got a ways to go yet. We got a problem. Now, as I've been cutting this nut, it just feels kind of, the slots felt kind of, I don't know, like gooey, greasy. So the third string, I had it perfect. And I've had the strings a little under tension, so I can take them in and out. I've always done that. And you can see these two are cut at 10,000ths. And this was 10,000ths. It ain't 10,000ths now. All I did was tune up the string. And it's like, how did that happen? It's really weird. So I think I have this bone nut. I'm pretty sure this is a bleached bone nut here. So I'm going to see if this fits. The thing that's a drag is I wasted so much time cutting that slowly. But I've never felt a nut as I was cutting it. It felt like, I don't know, kind of, what's the word? Like greasy or something. It's like, that's not really the right word, but oh, I hate when this happens. Especially when, I had it set at 10,000ths. And now it's what? 2,000ths? Ay, 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 that's so annoying. So... Well, my misfortune with this stock nut is going to give somebody a nice bone nut, so it's good for them. If you're going to use sandpaper to cut nuts, the thing to consider is, once it's all, look at this, this is really used. See how it's been folded and it's been bent? It's not, you got to use a newer piece of sandpaper because then you can make it round. You can't make this round. It's got all these imperfections and folds, and you want to have it round. So you can really control it when it's a piece that hasn't been bent 1,000 times. So that's just a little tip if you ever wanted to cut your nut with sandpaper. Okay, I've got the nut pretty much cut. I lowered the action down. Have not set the intonation yet, so. it looks like the bridge on the treble side, it's all the way down, but I think that's about where it needs to be. But it's kind of funny that it doesn't have more. I can't go down any farther. The bridge is not down. It doesn't need to go down all the way. It's pretty low. Here's a cool chord. Okay, here you can see that it's lowered as far as it can go. On the bass side, we still got a little bit of space to go down, but it doesn't need it. Here's what the action looks like. So the action's pretty good. And here's at the nut, it's set to 11 thousandths. Size, a little bit of polishing and glue that in, that'll be done. Wow, space out focus. There you go. Okay, the nut is done, so I'm going to take it off and clean it up and glue it on. I've lowered the bridge pickup, and I've had to get a pretty big screwdriver to work on this intonation. And that pretty stiff, too stiff. Really hard to turn. I hope they're not all like this. This is ridiculous. The E string was ridiculously hard to move. Now I'm on the D string, and it is too. I'm going to drop a little WD-40 on here. I hate to do that. What I'm going to do is I'll spray a little bit in here, and I'll use something small just to drop it on. I don't want to, obviously you're not going to spray it in there. All right, hopefully that helps. I've done it. I did it more than just this one time. I just want to show you how I did it. All right, she's all together. The intonation is done. So here's, you know, if you just pick up a guitar and you want to know if the intonation is in, here's how here's how I do it. A lot of times a D will give away the intonation. Okay, that wraps it up. I got a couple things to do. Put on the pick guard, clean it up a little bit, and a truss rod cover. But there's the setup. Let's see what the action is. I got 11 thousandths at the nut. That's a good, you know. If you want to play slide, you might want it more, but. And here it is. Yeah, it's all done. Sounding good. In tune. And I like the break angle. See how it's real subtle compared to those other Bixby's that have the 2 bars. But anyway, yeah, she's all done. I'll give you the specs before and after before we head out.